Hey, welcome to the Unapologetic Male Podcast. My name is Vaughn. Today we have an amazing guest. His name is Coach Doug Murray. He's out of Northern California. He's a football coach. He's coached everything from high school all the way to the pros, and we're going to touch on all the subjects today. Stuff you're comfortable with and some things you're not so comfortable with. We're going to get it all started right now. Welcome to the show. And how long have you been coaching?
Well, it was about 40 plus years.
40 years. That's crazy. And you've raised two amazing children. You have a son and a daughter, and your daughter played Division I college basketball, but not just Division I college basketball. She played at Syracuse, Texas Tech, San Diego State. I mean, she's done it all. She coaches now. She's a coach. And then your son, Nick Murray, has played football at University of San Diego. Now, I went to a coaching clinic with the San Francisco Giants one time, and the guy said, how many people in here are coaching their children? You know, I was one of the people that raised their hand, and he said, can you get out of it? He goes, you should never, ever coach your children. Is that true?
Well, I've seen it work for some families where the parent and them coaching their children have worked. We don't know what it would look like otherwise. I never did it. And
so you wouldn't coach your
No. I didn't even do hardly any backyard stuff.
So I remember specifically there's this one game. It was 2016. Sean's football team was fantastic that year. It was a playoff team. It was Pop Warner football. I want to say he was like 9 years old. And they had just won a big game. And the coaches are celebrating. The kids are celebrating. They're dancing around. And all of a sudden there's a rush of parents to the football field to yell at the coaches about playing time. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is a big moment. There's a big win, and these parents have ruined it by yelling about playing time. So I know as a coach and as a parent sitting in the stands, you've seen some crazy stuff. Can you tell us some crazy parent story?
We had, I think my son was 3 years old or 4, and he was in YMCA and basketball. And, they had the rims. They
lower the rims.
They don't even have the rims up. They bring rims into the court, little plastic ones that are 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
And then they have the distance between the two deals, and the coaches are there with the players, and parents are in the stands, and there's no score. So now the two teams get up and leave, and then the parents, the other kids are coming in, and I'm hearing this from people that know each other because it's Stockton. Hey, who won the game? How many points you just? We don't freaking keep score, and we don't have a scorekeeper, so nobody knows how many points anybody got. That's what I was thinking in my head. But for them, they're running it down. Well, so Johnny had 8 points, Jose had 4, and Karen had 3, and he had 6 rebounds and no turn. What? I couldn't help myself. So I didn't turn around and say anything to him. I just yelled. I yelled to Natalia, my wife at the time, or whomever. Man, I'm sure glad that was a close game, man, because I think my kid's going to lose his scholarship now. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And everybody in the parking lot heard it. Now, my bet is now, in retrospect, the people that got it were the ones that weren't counting. It was the ones that were counting that probably thought, well, I don't have to worry about it. My kid's going to get one.
Well, yeah, and athletics is at the center of a lot of controversy right now with transgender athletes. There's a lot of issues with that, and people are complaining about that. And one thing that we don't see, and there's only been 2 players who were in the NFL that were out of the closet while playing football. One of them was Michael Sam, and the other was Carl Nassib. He played for the Raiders. Now, Carl Nassib played for the Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he came out in 2021. He came in the league in 2016. He came out in 2021 during the summer, and he played one more year after that, and then he retired from football. Why is it that there's not more pro athletes or pro football players coming out as gay? Because the stats show there has to be NFL players that are gay that are in the closet, because 9% of millennials are identifying as LGBTQ+, and get this, almost 22% of Gen Z identifies as LGBTQ+. So is it not a safe environment to come out in the football locker room?
I remember when Sam came out, he played at Missouri.
Yeah.
And obviously, no matter what he was doing, publicly or privately, for him to, come out, so to speak, was incredibly courageous.
Yeah, I mean, especially in football.
You don't know what the response is going to be, but you can almost bang your head against the wall if you don't think it's going to mostly be negative and not positive. It's not going to be he's going to have people that support it, and there might even be some people in the intellectual closet that support him, but they're not going to publicly say anything. And so that's the first thing I thought of when he did it was, man, this dude's got some guts, man.
Yeah.
And plus he was really good, which that goes back to some of my feeling about it is the negative perception that comes with being a person that's not a male heterosexual is that you can't be violent, you can't be aggressive, you can't be, quote, masculine, whatever that means anymore. And so the perception of a person like that is, well, how can he be a good football player and, quote, be gay at the same time?
Well, Carl Nassib's first game after coming out of the closet, he stripped Lamar Jackson of the football. Lamar Jackson's thought of as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Carl Nassib was a badass football player. I'm just shocked that after he came out of the closet, that not more players did.
So I think some of the fear with athletes is, well, yeah, this part of the planet will support me and be all down with me, but this other part won't. And because we're not sure, am I going to get run out of the league? Because what's going to happen to me if I want to play football?
Well, Michael Sam only played in the practice squad.
That's another interesting deal. This goes back to anything where you're attached to a group that you feel has been maligned and they're not treated right. You never know if it's just because you weren't a good enough player or because you were whatever, gay, straight, black, white, green, yellow, or brown. You'll never know for sure. I read a editorial in the Washington Post years ago, and it was a race thing, but I'm going to try to, I guess, relay it a little bit. And the writer was saying, if a black male walks into a bank and the bank teller is rude, that black male's not positive how or why, but the black male is going to consider being a black male as a possible reason why that person was treating him rude, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't mean that's the case. The person could have a bad day, could just got news that a parent, a family member died. It could be anything. Could just be a prick, right? But here's the thing. If it was a white male, which I am, I would never even think of being white as the reason why the person treated me rude. It's not a factor in your own psyche as it relates to how you're navigating and articulating the planet. So for a person like Sam, he would never know for sure if he was being treated too good to compensate or not. Because here's the other thing that happens to us. We feel sorry for a person and we feel, hey, we're gonna make up for the fact that we know they're getting beat down. So now we're not even going to be honest or truthful with ourselves or them. We're just going to give them the free pass. And that goes back to then how can you know when you go into a locker room or a job and you're out there now and you're a potential target for whatever reason, it's hard to ever know why anybody acts a certain way towards you. And so it's probably almost less stressful not to say anything. I don't know. But I mean, that's a problem too. But I don't know. I wouldn't know what to tell a person, to be honest.
Well, that's the interesting part, because I know coaches, and we can look at all of the coaches of the past.
Right.
Their number one goal is to win games. Mm-hmm. That's really what coaches don't care about anything for the most part than winning games. So I would wonder what a college coach, high school coach, or even a pro coach would say to a player if that player came to them in confidence and said, I'm thinking about coming out of the closet. What should I do? Yeah. Because coaches are thinking about, well, is this going to be a distraction? Do you think most coaches
20 years ago, before all this social media stuff, I think it would have been, number one, they would have been scared to death. But now, depending on the way the wind's blowing, that could be an advantage for somebody because you could come out looking like a humanist and, $1 million baby, and you're in the news and you're, any publicity is good publicity. But the thing, I remember this, when I was coaching at high school at Mount Eden, So a girl wanted to play on the team.
She wanted to play on the football team.
Yeah, on the
This
varsity.
girl wanted to play on the football team.
She wanted to play on the football team.
As a
She was
kicker,
a
or
freshman.
she wanted to be a tackler? Or?
Well, she was a freshman. In her freshman year, what she did was she was like the mascot, right? But what I found out later, because I wasn't coaching a freshman, I was the varsity coach. She was trying to get as close to the world of football as she could get without having the guts to say, maybe I should try it to play, or just let it be known I want to play. So now she's playing. She's going to go out for the JV team. And so, number one, I said, well, yeah, of course she can come out. But for me, being a rebel rouser and a revolutionary, I was glad to do it because I knew it would piss some people off. Football gear, that would use that as an excuse. Well, girls, because of their body types, they can't wear the shoulder pads the same way. And if they cut the shoulder pad too high up to allow the upper body to flow, then that's a safety risk. So guess what I did? I sent her to a friend of mine who's a sports expert, right? And what he did, he goes, make it easy. Take the catcher's protective vest that baseball players use for catchers.
Yeah, the catcher.
And we'll design that to protect her front.
Oh, there you go.
Come on, man. So now, not only am I looking good because I supported her, I found ways to make her life plausible with not everybody saying, well, equipment problem, making up stuff, right? So one of the challenges was the visiting teams had to provide a locker room and female access to her. So we'd had to call ahead and say, we got a girl on the JV team. And then say they'd have to have a maintenance person or someone else
open up the door.
And it could be, those are the things that nobody likes to do. It's not whether or not you believe it's the right thing, but, oh man, we got to hire another maintenance guy for 3 hours. It's extra work. I'm still on the clock and I got to walk all the way across the other side of the field. I got to make sure the shower's warm. All the practical things that everybody has to deal with. And even for me, she was coming from the girls' locker room. And so I would always have to make sure if she's a few minutes late, it's okay. Because maybe it's the last class of the day. Didn't allow her that luxury like it did the guys. And then the meeting rooms, right? If you have a meeting room in the men's locker room, everybody has to be dressed and things have to be squared away so she can be part of the meetings. The gender challenge might be tougher than the so-called gay one. And I'm only saying so-called gay because I don't know all the current terminology. I apologize for that. But where you don't have to worry about that because the guy's a guy. And that goes into the whole other stuff about equal access, equality, equity.
Did that girl humble a lot of guy players?
Well, she's really smart. And one of the things girls don't want to do that I've experienced is embarrass the boys. Because
they don't want to embarrass them.
No, they don't. And they're smarter, better looking, much more socialized, much more ahead of the game. And because of that, and you got a 15-year-old girl on the team with 15-year-old boys, and half of them are so goofy still, and she's not. And she ended up being a leader of the team because she was smarter than everybody. She could read the playbook better. And not only is she a teammate, she might be better than him. So he's going through a whole lot of stuff, but that's just part of the dynamic of being a coach because you got all these different personalities and character traits and different stuff that comes into the, locker room onto the team that you have to deal with, good, bad, right, or wrong.
Well, football is a hard sport.
Well, because there's so many moving pieces, so many people involved.
Yeah, and it definitely attracts a different type of athlete. Football, like there's people on a football team. Some people are really superior athletes. Some people are just bigger people. And then there's people that are super violent in the sport. And the question came up, I saw the other day, does football attract violent people or does football make people more violent?
This is going to sound like a weak answer, but probably both.
If you had some experience with some violent football players off the field?
Sure. Drug dealers galore, especially in the 80s when there was guys that were going to school and gangbanging at night, and packing and trying to live a double lifestyle. which must have been stressing him out. One of the players, called me about midnight one night. He said that the cops were after him and that he had just escaped the dog. So, as the story goes, and his dumb ass tries to rob by gunpoint a Burger King at like 11 a.m. in the freaking morning. So it's bright daylight. As you guys know, Burger King and all the fast food places are nothing but glass.
Yeah.
So anybody driving by or anybody looking in can see him at the counter with a gun in his hand.
With a gun, holding it up, yeah.
What, robbing him of what, 15, 20 bucks? I mean, it's the first morning. There's no money in the till. And on top of that, kind of a sidebar, and I told him this, I go, there was like a Bank of America right next door. What? Why didn't you rob that? Yeah. So what happened was somebody from the bank looked over as they're in line, wandering eyes, and they see this kid
with a gun, holding
with the gun. Yeah. So the cops come. By then he's already in his car. And so he pulls out and they start chasing him. He pulls onto a grass lawn, gets out of the car before the cops can get there and starts running. All right. So the cops approach the car, look at the registration, and it's Mrs. Smith at such and such address in San Leandro or Union City or whatever, right?
And it's his mom's.
It's mom's address. It's his mom's car. So that's why when he got to the police station, they knew exactly who he was, right? So he takes off. They find the gun. It's his friend's gun. So he did plot and plan this, which is interesting because that's an aggravated offense. Here's the good news. At that time, it wasn't a mandatory law that there was a 5 or 10 additional years attached for having a weapon in a criminal offense, right? So that didn't really go against him like it would have 10 years later or whatever, right? So he goes in, they arrest him. He goes through court, and he only has to do like 18 months.
And I'm going to ask you the most difficult question right now. But first, I want to say it's the Unapologetic Male Podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're on all social media platforms and YouTube.
Yeah, do it.
This is the toughest question of the day that I'm going to give you. Are you prepared for it? This is extremely difficult.
Absolutely not. No, I'm not, Vaughn.
Okay. As you can see, I'm wearing a 49ers shirt here.
Here we go.
Is Brock Purdy, the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, is he worth a max contract?
I don't think any of them are worth a max contract based on the dollar amount.
It is a huge dollar amount.
But relative to who they could get and what the market is, because it's whatever the market will bear in sports now. We know that, right? So would it be totally out of pocket for him to get a max contract given what I just suggested? No. And then how are you going to turn down that money? And really, the real question for me is, who's deciding? Who's they? Like, no one believes that he should make that much money. Well, who is that? Is that the same person that would say no to a raise tomorrow? Okay, if they don't sign him, who are they going to sign? And is that guy going to be better, or is it a bang for your buck theory? Like, well, we can get the same kind of talent for less money. Okay, so you're okay with going 8-8?
Well, the way the 49ers are this year, I think they'd want to be 8-8.
Yeah, well, the NFL is not what the NFL is kooky this year, all right?
It's super weird.
I mean, I'm going to use the word aberration just to protect you guys, all right?
So I know you're a huge Minnesota Vikings fan. This is the year where they possibly could go to the Super Bowl.
It's a setup coming right here, all right?
Who do you have going to the Super Bowl this year? What's your Super Bowl?
I would still go with the AFC. I would still go with KC.
Over because Buffalo's right there.
Yeah, no, I don't trust Buffalo. So for me, it's if I had to play one team, I wouldn't want to play the Ravens next Sunday. If I want to go head to head not go head to head with the player, I don't want anything to do with Mahomes.
Yeah,
I'd stay as far away from him as possible. All right, so that's why I would pick one of them. Do I think that Buffalo obviously has a shot and they got a lot of consistency? Yeah, but in the playoffs, it's who can win that game, because it's do or die, right? And so the AFC is probably one of those three teams. I still think the NFC is wide open because I don't trust the Vikings or Detroit, but it looks like it could be one of them too. Right?
I don't trust the Detroit head coach.
No, well, that's what I mean. And then
the guy's a maniac.
And in Minnesota, not only do we have a history of choking, and I'm saying choking, but until you win a playoff game, well, if you go 16-0 and lose the first round or second round, it doesn't really matter what you did in the regular season, right?
Yeah, well, they went 15-1 one year and didn't get to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Well, I know that. So, and thanks for reminding me of that. All right. Hey, can we cut the show right now?
Yeah.
Come on, you guys. I mean, come on. Look at me. Even the microphone's getting at me right here. So yeah, you're right. That was a loaded question, right? You talk about emotional vulnerability and weakness right now. It's me. I can answer a question about some kind of social political thing, and I get all squirrely when it comes to the Vikings. So,
the Vikings, that's years of pain.
What do you think?
In the AFC, I'm going to go with Buffalo. And in the NFC, I'm going with Minnesota. And Buffalo beating Minnesota in the Super Bowl.
I am so glad this is being taped. All right?
Tape
it because he can't go back on anything. He can't rationalize.
Yeah.
He can't roll back and say, but I didn't really have time to explain why I said it.
Yeah.
No defense mechanisms.
Buffalo versus Minnesota.
All right, now who's winning that one?
Buffalo. Their first Super Bowl. Western New York's going to go crazy.
Yeah, they are. They're going crazy right now with you.
Yeah.
And you might get another 50,000 viewers now. Syracuse, Rochester.
Oh yeah.
Albany, all the old school Irish enclaves that most people don't know about.
Exactly. And remember, there's only one team in New York. The Jets and Giants play in Jersey.
Man, well said. Well, don't go there, Niners, because that should say Santa Clara, not San Francisco.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Did I go there on
yes,
it or what?
Did. Like and subscribe. It's Unapologetic Mail. My name is Vaughn. Thank you, Coach Murray, for joining us today.
Love you guys. Love you, man. You're a special person. I'm so glad to have been on the show.
Thank you for joining us on the Unapologetic Mail podcast, and thank you to Coach Murray for being an amazing guest. Now, if you loved the video, and let's be real, I know you did because you're still watching, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, follow me on socials. I got a great quote that's going to inspire everybody from an amazing coach. If at first you don't succeed, why don't you try doing what your coach said the first time? We'll see you on the next episode of Unapologetic Mail.